Hi, this is a video for Gallows Pole, or Gallows frickin' Pole, if you want to call it that. All right, Gallows Pole. There's sort of a short way to answer it and then a long way to answer it. By and large, you got to remember with Gallows Pole is that what he does is the snare is played on the downbeat. So, and then, see, this is going to be kind of hard to explain without the backing music. Because if there's no reference from when I do it, it's going to naturally sound to we American, or people who are used to playing on the upbeat. In other words, okay, leaning on the gallows pole, swinging on the gallows pole. Sometimes the time to see how the snares on the downbeat, da la la da. It's not da la la. It's not that. So it's essentially like if you were playing that pattern, swinging on the gallows pole. The snare is where the bass drum is. So the snare, of course, is on the downbeat. And I think he's actually in the studio recording. But here it's not going to sound really good because I think on the recording you can hear real faintly the... At first, actually, to me it sounds like it's just going... Like he is hitting it, but I do think he's playing... But for ease of comparison here, because it's going to be really loud for me, again, I don't have the super soft ghost notes. I mean, it's like... And I know when you see live versions, there's live clips, like when Page and Plant are playing with that fella Lee, Michael Lee, I think, on the drums. God rest his soul. He died. I don't know if you knew that, but he's going berserker like... Smacking the drum. And he's also later on the bass drum. I mean, he's not really... There's a finesse to the way the studio recording is. Let's just put it that way. And it's a different animal. And it might be a different animal for a different reason, too, which I'll go into the later explanation. In my over-analysis of this song. But anyway, of course, snare on the downbeat. Okay? Song starts. The basic pattern is... Because what happens is it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And those 1, 2s, what happens is they add, technically speaking, you probably could call the song, it's like 2, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, the whole time. But for, I don't know how it's done. But let's just say it's 4, 4, but then they add an extra, an extra half a bar, okay? When it goes ba ba ba, okay? So I'm probably going to have to make 2 videos about this. So so you have the song. He kicks in. Right now, without the music playing, even right now, to you it might even seem a little funky. Like it's very easy for us, to me, when I'm just playing that in open air with no music. It doesn't sound like one. It doesn't sound like 1 and 2 and 3. It can sound like 1 and 2. It can. It's all about it's a perceived time thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about now, that's fine. But you probably might. So if the music's going. Da 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 da. We're in the verse right now. Da, 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 so that's the general pattern he plays. Of course, he's probably going. So. Okay, so. Play it soft because I really want to make sure that you know it's very easy to get lost because it's da 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 da, and then every so often there's a okay. He does 3 crashes there on the gallows, but like on the main thing. I'll figure out at some point to put music to this. The problem is, it's just I'm so nervous that some Warner Brothers guy or some of these Warner Music groups going to freak out and then pull my channel. Even though I know you go on YouTube and there's guys playing Zeppelin all the time, like they just have it up and they have pictures and the whole Zeppelin tune. They don't seem to be affiliated with Zeppelin or whatever. But I just know that there is a drum guy, Joe Drums, was posting videos and he was putting some actual Zeppelin in the videos and they pulled his whole channel. So for now, I just want to ass around with that till I figure out what the hell's going on. But it would really come in handy in this video because you kind of really need the because of the nature of the way it's played, you just kind of need the music really as a cue. So you're going to have to bear with me. So essentially, and remember again, in this explanation, the music, this is on the downbeat. It's very easy for it to sound like, but it's on the downbeat, so. Okay, that's the downbeat. Snare on the downbeat, not on the upbeat. And then, of course, so that pattern goes on. Okay, ba, ba. But then the important thing to understand is that extra ba, 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 we go right back into the, so you go. So after the crashes, what it does, it goes da 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 do da do da do do da do do da do da do da do do da. So ba ba bam boom bam boom ba boom boom ba boom. It doesn't go ba 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 boom boom ba boom. They're adding that extra. An extra chunk that then the beat then picks up again, as I explained before. So does that make sense? It does. Listen to the tune and you'll know what I'm talking about. Do a little, so you da 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 da. But the important thing is, so you go, just to make it easier, the pattern, he plays it, he goes, the last crash is where the snare would be. So, actually, they're all the correct, but so you go. Sort of looping where if the crashes would be and then back into the music, so you can work on. So we can work on that transition. So. Essentially what happens throughout the song. But then what starts happening toward the end of the song, in classic Zeppelin fashion, this is where it gets a little hairy for me to explain, because a lot of it's my opinion, but I think it's a very valid opinion. Zeppelin were when you read the stories early on, like, John Bonham and John Paul Jones, John Bonham, he kind of talked that this week, we used to turn the beat around a little to buck up Jimmy Page, And I'm not making fun of him, but he really did kind of talk like that. So, and they did. They do stuff like, you remember on Immigrant Song, like they would add, they do that, and then they add like a little chunky and then come back in, and Jimmy Page, I think, would turn around and be like, what the hell are you guys doing? Apparently they love to do that. And I guess I would too if I was that skilled with John Paul Jones as my bass player. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, in all seriousness, this is going somewhere. So what I think Zeppelin used to do that, and sometimes then Jimmy Page is like, hey, I get in on that act, or they thought it was cool. Sometimes they did things that later, so they'd record the tune, right? Essentially when you record a tune, especially back in that day, you'd sort of play the tune, you get a keeper drum track, I think Jimmy Page, sometimes they would tape together parts of the drum takes. I know a lot of diehard Zeppelin guys are like, but you can hear a splice in some of these songs. We can fight about that later. But anyway, a good example of, do you know, the mental mind game, and this is going somewhere, so bear with me. I know people are like, would you just play the song and shut the hell up? But just bear with me here. What happens is sometimes on the radio, you get in the car and you turn the radio on, you're kind of paying attention to something else, and you hear the song from a weird way. The song might just be like the Eagles, like, one of these nights, you know, whatever. But if you come in, you're kind of paying attention to something else, and in the back of your mind, you hear the song, but you kind of lose where the one is. You people know what I'm talking about here. You're kind of like, well, that's kind of an interesting song, because it suddenly sounds like a real weird syncopated thing, but then suddenly it dawns on you it's just one of these nights, and it is just in 4/4, and you're like, oh, I don't know, but maybe that happens to me. I am crazy, but I'm mental. But so anyway, but you know what I'm talking about. So let's take that a step further. Like in Led Zeppelin, like in rock and roll, like most of us, you know, growing up when there was nothing to compare it to and the drums just started the song, we always assumed it was 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then the way I used to count, I played it for years doing that, and then I just added an extra note, an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because it was because you weren't listening to it in the proper context. Of course, then we realized later that Bonham is just playing. He's just playing a certain beat along to like a 50s jump. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, right? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. How would you count? 1, 2, 3. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, rock. But of course, if you did it to that song, it would go on forever. So of course I don't want to get too much on a tangent. The point I'm trying to make, go back to my other videos and see where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Okay, if you want to go back to the rock and roll thing, or there's other people that, okay. Let's get rid of that tangent. But the point I'm trying to make on that tangent is that if you're not really familiar with something and the song just starts, you then perceive what follows as like, oh, and then everything that follows is like a half click off and it just seems so funky. In this song, that kind of stuff starts happening as the song goes on later. Because you'll hear that they overdub, and I think it's actually John Bonham and Robert Plant singing, they go, they start doing that, but that is put in sort of a weird spot between the second and third beat of the song. And there's another thing too, depending if you want to call it between the second and third, or the fourth and the first. Because something does happen later in the song where Bonham inverts the pattern. So he goes from... So the whole outro of the song is... But that's another can of worms. We're going to get that. That's why this is going to be a long video. Okay. So, we get to... they're singing that kind of comes in a weird, like Jimmy Page, you know, they kind of throw it in sort of it's one of those classic Zeppelin-y kind of in an awkward spot of things. It's not too much to handle when you first hear it, but if you listen to the song, that kind of then lends itself mentally to suddenly adding a thing instead of like, get me to the gallows pole, bring me to the gallows, bring me to so get me to the gallows. Starts creating a little bit of an illusion there that it goes from like the downbeat to a little bit. You know, it's not that obvious at first. But then you have John Paul Jones then start going at the head of the piece. So whether you want to go or however you want to think it's counted there, it starts on either the 1 or the 3. I know this seems overly complicated, because it is, though. I'm telling you, this is, I think, the most complicated Zeppelin tune. All right, so John Paul Jones starts doing that there. Okay? But then it gets worse. What he starts doing then is he starts jumping the note a little. And then he starts going. He starts jumping in there. Okay, he starts doing that. And in and of itself, that's not that big a deal. But then when you have the guys going, They start doing that in combination with that. Everything starts getting a little funky. It kind of suddenly you get sort of in this zone where everything it kind of sounds like if you're ever not that familiar with the song, you think, well, Bonham must have switched it from the to. Okay, now die-hard Zeppelin people will know what I'm talking about here. Other people might. If you just want to kind of know the song just to play it, just remember that this is on the downbeat. You can get by playing the whole song with your band doing that, and that's fine. You play the whole song out that way. But what actually happens, though, and I want to say at about 3:12, 3:13, if I spit at the camera, bear with me. When I get excited, I start spitting crap all over the place. At about 3:10-ish, 3:15 in the song-ish, because what I did was I went on YouTube, just easier. There's somebody has GALLOWS POLE on there, and I just do it there instead of turning on my iTunes and have it updating all this crap, or getting the CD out and putting it. I just go on YouTube and I just listen. There's somebody has a video there where it's just the studio recorded. You can find it. I think it's Led Zeppelin '69 or something. Oop, don't want to get him in trouble. I think it's somebody like that. So, anyway, but around 3:15 is where he starts going. Switches it. But of course what happens in there, you got to remember there is the ba ba ba, and there's one in there that's not accented. So instead of like it's kind of like he just kind of plays through it. And that happens a couple times in the song, I think, where he doesn't full blast accent it because they don't really treat it. Plant doesn't really sing on it. Bring me to the gallows. He doesn't sing on it, but the music happens underneath it that way. Okay, I know this sounds really complicated. I'm very detail oriented, but I'm really trying to just call it as I see it. So anyway, so somewhere in there about the 3:14 mark, you get the. Then the pattern inverts. So instead of like, it goes. Okay, so then the is at the top, is at the 1, okay? Sit through and actually count the song. If you want to sit there from like, 2:20 or whatever and sit there and count those and not get thrown off by the extra 1, 2 sometimes, you'll see what I mean. But again, now that conceivably could have been caused by an edit. Jimmy Page might have, to make the song interesting, knowingly or unknowingly, might have cut and joined together the drums or the basic rhythm thing there, just to make the song longer so they could have something going on, and the pattern might have reversed that way. That could have happened. It might not have been Bonham, cleverly. He sure could have, but not like. And it happens subtly. It doesn't happen in a straight linear line like that, where it just sort of happens. But again, that could have been an edit on Jimmy Page's part. Anyway, so here we go. I gotta check the time here. I know people are gonna laugh at like how much detail I'm pouring into this, but what can you do? I really do want to be thorough. All right, we're already at 18. All right, so what I'm gonna do? So there we are. I'm gonna make a part 2 here. Okay. So let's do a part 2. So now we're leaving here after more or less the 3:14 mark where the pattern sort of gets inverted. Okay, that's where we'll leave it. So we'll do a part 2.